Across an article on the Huffington Post that was written by Nabil Qureshi, an evangelical speaker and preacher. And in this article, Nabil tries to delve into the solutions on how we can combat and defeat ISIS, which according to him is to preach a theology of love to them. So in other words, Nabil's solution to eradicating ISIS is to preach the gospel.
As you can see, Brother Sami Zatarawi is responding to Nabil Qureshi, who obviously thinks that whatever ISIS does is actually Islamic. Now, Brother Sami Zatarawi made a video discussing that how to combat ISIS, and that is to take away their interpretation of the Quran and show that they're wrong, and their interpretation of the Hadith to show that they're wrong, and this is the best way to combat radicalism and so forth. And of course, Christians did not like this at all, and they came to troll in the comment section and present arguments how ISIS does in fact follow the true interpretation of the Quran and Hadith. Now, in this video, I'm not claiming that everything that ISIS does is not Islamic. Of course, they have things that they do are Islamic. No one's denying that. However, there are things that they do which is too extreme, and it takes them questionably away from the true teachings of Islam. Christian apologists and speakers such as Nabil Qureshi don't think so. But our objective as Muslims is to refute both the Christian critics and both the radicals who actually assert that they are following, that Islam teaches this radical concept of their beliefs. And throughout this video, I'll refute some of those points. And you'll see now below in the comment section of this video, we'll go through what the Christian says, and again, we will counter him in their assertions. And this isn't something new. Christians always bring up these arguments to misinterpret the Quran and Hadith, and God willing, we will debunk their claims. So, the Christian guest who's in the room is Ahmalallah, if that's exactly how I'm pronouncing his name. It's a little bit hard. I mean, don't get me wrong. Ahmalallah. Okay, well, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. No disrespects. So let's go ahead and see what he's all about. Yes, as you can see, he's a Christian. He's got Christian videos up, the evidence for Christianity, prophecies. As you can see, he's obviously a fundamental Christian. So let's now go back to the video and let's see what he says in his assertions, and we will counter that. And this isn't something new. These are very old arguments, but we'll go through them anyhow. But you will see that the responses will, God willing, destroy his points. So we'll go to the very beginning of his points so we can then counter it. And this basically started on the 7th of September. And it's continuing for a few days now. So just bear with me. So basically, he came around and he said that ISIS cannot and would not exist without Islam. There is no dancing around the fact they have the true understanding of Islam. If you look at the actions of Muhammad and his companions, there is really little or no difference. Plus, ISIS is just one of the many, even hundreds of Islamic militant groups, and he says that this is a fact and so forth. So basically, I posted him a source this is from the Western intelligence agencies. According to them, documented in the Independent UK, which these documents leak recruits Islam, Sharia, religion, faith, Syria upon this subject. And it shows that experts admit ISIS members know very little about Islam. And we'll also post that below this video and you can see for yourself. Now, Amala also claimed that he used a particular source in Ibn Majah where companions such as Ali and so forth, they burnt infidels. And his assertion is that that's exactly what ISIS is doing. So that's absolutely no different to what ISIS is doing, and they're just as barbaric. Now, I actually made the point to him that his own Jesus, according to the Bible, will burn infidels in hellfire, right? So I asked him the question, can Jesus, who is your God, is he just like ISIS? Is he a terrorist as well? He must be exactly the same. If he's accusing Ali radiallahu anh of being a terrorist similar to ISIS, is that the same? And I got no answer to that question. Throughout the whole debate, you'll see he never ever wanted to respond to that assertion. And I called him numerous times to answer that question, and he said, let's just debate Islam. He completely ignored it, and I don't expect him at the end of this debate to respond, because he actually promised to say he will defend Christianity and he will respond. But I actually give him the benefit of the doubt. Usually Christian missionaries like this, they'll debate for days Islam, but when it comes to debating Christianity, they'll just abandon the room, leave, and just ignore everything and make up some silly excuse. So basically, he also said that in his comments that Muhammad casted all the Jews and Christians out of the Arabian Peninsula, and he asserted that this is exactly what ISIS and so forth is doing. I actually called him to account. I said, you are a liar. This is discussing Ibn Majah burning home, he made the claim that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, burnt homes, which also supported the Hadith where apparently Ali radiallahu anh burnt infidels, and he used that as evidence as well. We actually said that this is being refuted. Ibn Majah burning homes was only metaphorical. In Ibn Majah's quotation, where the Prophet ordered to burn homes of those who do not pray, this was obviously metaphorical, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, never burnt the homes of companions, because he made a lie. He said the Prophet Muhammad actually killed his own companions for not praying and so forth. This is actually being refuted, and I posted him a link, and this was only the Prophet expressing his anger metaphorically. Burn the homes of those who do not come to the prayer. And the life of the Prophet is an example, and that there wasn't a single home that was burnt in any hadith sources, and I challenge any Christian to bring that up. As for removing the Jews and the Christians from the Arabian Peninsula, notice this was for Mecca and Medina and not other parts, outskirts of Arabia, thus the rest of the world. He allowed Jews and Christians to live alongside Muslims so long as they pay the jizya. As for torturing prisoners, he claimed that the Islamic Sahaba, they tortured prisoners and so forth. However, we know that many hadith literatures speak on the contrary, how some of the prisoners were treated better than the companions. They would share their food. They would be very, very merciful towards them. But even if there was interrogation and torture, look at what your Christian countries are doing in Guantanamo Bay. Should we now call the American government terrorism after they've, they use electrocution, they use intimidation, they strip them naked, they beat them up, they stack them on top of each other naked. We've heard cases of rape. We've heard cases of all these tortures, and I can actually post you a link below this video and you can actually see for yourself. So you have absolutely no assertions or claims here. So Amala came back and he said, you provided no solid refutation, merely an assertion and opinion, which is no refutation at all. In fact, the closest companions such as Ali did in fact burn people alive for missing the prayer, as well as atheists. He quotes Sahih al-Bukhari 6922. And he says, lastly, you seem to admit Muhammad and his companions indeed tortured, making them as barbaric as ISIS. Well, what about your Jesus? So when Jesus tortures people in hellfire, I guess he's just as barbaric as Muhammad and his companions, and maybe he's just compared to ISIS. Wow. So anyway, he actually lied. I asked him, I said, post the hadith you lie. I said, not just a random number. Let's see the full hadith, Ali burning people for missing the prayer. I said, and I actually mentioned, I said, torture and interrogation is part of the military, even part of US military. The difference is they do not torture non-enemy combatants. So he was trying to assume that non-enemy combatants were tortured. But this is a lie. It's completely false. And it was only through the rules and regulations of combat and so forth. So basically, I called him to account because he made a lie. He said that Ali radiallahu anh in Sahih Bukhari 6922, burnt alive Muslims, right? I called him to account. He completely ignored it. And he just went on his denial campaign saying still no refutation. So he's basically on the ropes at this moment. And I said to him, I did refute it. I showed it was metaphorical burning of the homes to express anger for why people slept in homes and not came out to prayer. I said to him that the hadith nowhere shows he actually went ahead and burnt those homes, nor a single companion named is even cited of being burnt for not praying. I said, you're obviously just copying and pasting a reference from your hate sites without even bothering to read it yourself. Further, Ali never burnt a companion, rather what was alleged, he ordered the burning of an enemy combatant and not simply non-enemy combatants. But this hadith is weak and it contradicts where the Prophet said in Sahih al-Bukhari not to use Allah's punishment fire on anyone. I said to him, it is you who has been defeated and a liar, and shame on you. And the fact that you are also proven to be a hypocritical, since Jesus will burn and torture non-believers in the afterlife. And again, he has no answers to that. And I said, yes, your Jesus make ISIS look like angels, for Jesus will torture billions of non-believers in hellfire. He writes back, he says, Muslims always say all Sahih hadiths they dislike are weak. Plus, I showed you another Sahih hadith which states companions include Ali burnt and killed and non-practicing Muslims and so forth. Actually, again, he's completely being dishonest here. If Muslims disliked, just because they disliked hadith, they name it weak, he obviously has no science of hadith knowledge. We Muslims don't just classify something that just because we don't like it as simply non-authentic. There's something called an isnad, chain of narrations. If there are two authentic hadiths that contradict each other, then both can't be right. If there's an authentic hadith that is more authentic than a weaker hadith, we take them authentic hadith, and that authenticity is not based upon our opinion or so forth. It goes through science of hadith, whether there is broken chains in the narration, where it's daif, weak. If the narrator is known to be a liar or untrustworthy person, there's a whole science of hadith that goes through it. So no, simply just because we dislike it doesn't make it unauthentic. In fact, there are many hadiths that are questionable. They always bring these up to attack Islam. Like, for example, I'll give you an example where they say, the Prophet Muhammad married a 9-year-old. Well, do we Sunni Muslims reject that hadith and say, oh, it's a weak hadith? No, we don't. We could say, oh, it's a falsified weak hadith. Mainstream Islam doesn't say that. So if it's simply because we don't like it or we feel that, it's, it's something that we dislike, we'd say, oh yeah, it's a weak hadith. But how come most of the things that you use against us, day in, day night, we still simply say they're authentic? So again, he's just showing his hypocritical inconsistencies there. I said to him, you lied again. The hadith which is weak contradicts another hadith, and even if it's authentic, Ali did not burn random people, rather ordered the burning of enemy combatants. It's actually a weapon to kill, and this is actually a weapon to kill your enemy in war. In fact, even the US, the Christian military, use such weapons against enemy combatants. And you can actually see it, for example, here. You'll see it here. There you go. That's the flamethrower, where the military have used this in, for example, in Germany, in Vietnam War. They use the flamethrower to kill enemy combatants. So as you can see, even if Ali radiallahu anhu used the flame, even if he did, if that makes him ISIS, then what about the US military who use the same method in Vietnam and who use the same method in Germany? So I'm guessing the US military is no different than Ali radiallahu anhu, and for the third time you have been silent on Jesus burning and torturing people in hell. I suspect you're a Christian Prince cult follower. They tend to ignore everything in Christianity. So he comes back and says, all hadiths, including the ones in the link, show that it is halal to kill the unbelievers, apostates, brutally, that Ali himself killed by means of the fire. If you look up and read the whole hadith quoted in the link, but that one companion insists that he himself would not have used fire because he alleges he heard Muhammad say not to use fire, though Muhammad himself may have done so, and even implied he would love to do so by saying he would like to burn the houses of those who miss the prayer, burning them and their whole families. Furthermore, used other brutal methods and tortures against unbelievers who failed to submit to his will. If you have ever missed a prayer or failed to entirely submit in some way, you should fear Muhammad's threats and tortures. In fact, the final SAHIH Hadith states in the link shows that Muhammad felt justified in brutality killing any Muslim who failed to submit sufficiently by saying they are not his true companions since they fail to practice or miss a prayer. This means most Muslims would die in today's world by Muhammad's own hands. I know many Muslims actually practice all 5 prayers each day or practice Islam as Muhammad would demand. This means Muhammad and his companions are no different than ISIS, who feel justified in killing any Muslim they don't see practicing Islam devoutly. Enough, checkmate. Here's the response. Again, and this is my response, I said to him, again, Muhammad liked to do so burn. I said to him, Muhammad likes to burn homes. Where Muhammad wanted to burn the homes, it's different from burning the people. Notice he said burn the homes and not burn the people. And having an intention is different from action. The fact that he didn't go ahead with the burning, not a single home nor a person, proves his intention was one that was only metaphorical statement in expressing his anger. You also said Ali burnt apostates. You lied. It was enemy combatants who were not exactly apostates. I said you then made another lie that Muhammad and companions killed any Muslim they didn't see fit as practicing Muslim, yet there is no hadith saying they targeted Muslims, so you're full of, excuse me for my French, bullshit. He then went on to say, in fact, so then I went and said to him, in fact, the Prophet said, whoever kills another Muslim, let him put his place in hell. This is also mentioned in the authentic hadiths. So basically that was my response to him. He then came back and he said, wrong. The fact that Ali, who was one of the closest people to Muhammad, burnt apostates, unbelievers, people who missed a single prayer, shows that he was following Sunnah of Muhammad, but someone disagreed with the manner because he alleged Muhammad stated people would not kill with fire, yet Muslims still do, just like Ali did. He killed them for missing prayer or being atheists, as the Hadith clearly states, and we know that apostates and atheists are to be killed according to Muhammad. Failure to submit equal kufr and apostasy automatically, which is why Muhammad wanted to kill and burn anyone who missed prayer. It is only forbidden to kill practicing Muslims who kill prayer, every prayer, and submit entirely, which means most Muslims of the world and apostates, and not real Muslims who Muhammad and his companions love to kill, just like ISIS is. I said to him, this is my response, I said, Ali is not our authority, it is the Prophet. So again, your straw man argument fails, even if you assume what you assume. You're basically saying, ignore what Muhammad practiced, just do what Ali did. You said Ali was following the Sunnah of Muhammad, yet how so when the Prophet's teaching forbade using fire? That is not following the Sunnah, and you testified that Muhammad's Hadith shows not to punish with Allah's fire. So how do you reconcile between the two contradictions? You have no answer to this. The fact that ISIS or Muslims do that proves nothing except that they follow a contradicting hadith, which proves our point that they follow conjecture. Amala shows us where the hadith says he killed them for missing a prayer. So basically I'm challenging him, where exactly in the hadith does it say that Ali killed Muslims for missing a prayer? He's a liar, and I don't have I'm not racist towards Arabs and so forth, but there's a particular group of Arab Christians that just love lying upon a hadith. They literally lie to your face, and I'm constantly asking him, bring us a single hadith where Ali killed or burnt a Muslim for missing a prayer. And he still doesn't provide any such quote. So he's basically lying. As for killing apostates, this is apostates who committed treachery and advocated war. So yes, Ali radiallahu anh is definitely unlike ISIS. Even if it was true that he did burn some people, even if it's true. I said, I do agree that there are lots of things ISIS do are Islamic, but there are things that are not in accordance exactly. So bringing up things that are similar do not help your case at all. They kill non-enemy combatants, which is the underlying difference, which includes women and children, which the Prophet forbade. Go ask any ISIS member, they will agree it's halal to kill women and children whom are from them. Which is basically the underlying difference. Amala then comes back and says, regarding the topic at hand, Muhammad taught that his followers and companions were the best of Muslims, especially his Sahaba, his companions, which includes Ali, who was actually related to Muhammad. Therefore, they were the best imitators of Muhammad, and it just happens that their actions, as well as those of Muhammad, match those of ISIS perfectly. Muhammad may have taught some of his followers at a later time not to burn people, others not, like Ali, who was clearly unaware and doing what he felt best imitates Muhammad and his sunnah from his perspective. Muhammad, as he got older, probably decided to change his mind regarding barbarically burning people to death, as he often did regarding many things. Many of his practices were imitated by those who happened to witness them, like what we see regarding the veneration of the black stone. Today, millions of Muslims venerate idols, the black stone, because someone witnessed Muhammad doing so. This is also why so many contradicting SAHIH hadiths. Muhammad was himself hypocritical and often contradicted his own teachings, which is why he even had more than 4 wives, changed laws to benefit himself. He says ISIS do what they do because they imitate Muhammad like his companions did. This is why their actions are so similar to those of ISIS. Then you say Islam only teaches to kill apostates who advocate war. Where is your evidence? The source clearly states anyone who changes their religion. He goes on to say ISIS and Muhammad and his companions all killed Muslims they deemed to be hypocritical because they did not sufficiently practice or submit to Islam. Allah commands Muhammad to strive hard against and be harsh to the hypocrites. He quotes Surah 9:73. Here is a response. I said, first of all, we are not talking about discussing other world religions as though it's not about Christianity. We want to see some consistency. You came here as a Christian, and as a Christian, we are asking you to show consistency. Therefore, we are asking you if ISIS is Islamic and you want to conclude the religion of Islam is barbaric, how do you still hold on to the position you identify yourself as a Christian, yet have no problem in believing in Christianity when the very same teaching is found there where Jesus starts burning people alive in hellfire? Of course, he doesn't answer that question. So then I went on to combat his sayings. So here's the response. I said, you actually misunderstood the argument. I never said Ali did burn people because we don't have to accept Hadith if it contradicts another authentic Hadith. You obviously don't understand how science of Hadith works, and yes, Ali is the best, but it means better than a lot of other people. Being the best doesn't mean you cannot sin. It just means you're best because you may sin less than others. So again, you have a straw man argument when you're obviously appealing to Muhammad's generation being the best generation. I said to him, where is the evidence? Well, there was an ex-Muslim who left Islam in the time of the Prophet Muhammad and his life was not harmed. You can actually, I'll post a reference below this video because he asked for evidence, where's the difference between apostates, those who advocate war, and are all apostates to be killed? No, there are hadiths where the Prophet Muhammad spared the life of some apostates. So there's a difference between extreme apostates and those apostates who, simply just want to leave and mind their own business and go away. The Prophet Muhammad didn't harm these types of people. It was only apostates who committed treachery in the sense that they advocated the war. And we will post a reference below this video so you can go and read it yourself. He said, he quoted the verse in the Quran that says, be harsh against the disbelievers. I said, yep, harsh against unbelievers in war. That's the context. But outside war, we're to show kindness as the Quran commands. The Prophet said in Sahih Bukhari, whoever hurts unjustly an unbeliever, he can never be my companion. This is what Sahih Bukhari says. So then to the next topic. He actually still wants to debate the same topic. So he comes back and says, Muhammad and his Sahaba are no different than any of the terrorist Islamic groups who strictly follow Islam, which justifies all their barbarity, namely including Surah 2:194. Now he brings up a new claim. Remember, all these other claims are falling apart. So when all the other claims are falling apart, he's bringing some new claims. So he's quoting Surah 2:194, and he says that this means Muslims can burn with even fire. In some cases, it's another contradiction to Islam. So notice the hypocrisy. When Islam shows a rebuttal or a refutation, he calls this a contradiction. So refuting Surah 2:194, which quotes, fighting in the sacred month is for aggression committed in the sacred month, and for all violations is legal retribution. So whoever has assaulted you, then assault him in the same way that he has assaulted you, and fear Allah and know that Allah is with those who fear. So this is another heavily verse used by the Christian critics and of course by ISIS supporters and followers, that we could assault in the exact same way they assault us. So they use this verse to prove that, basically, if they're kids and children are killed, if the ISIS children are killed through drone strikes and things like that, then of course they could go out and kill children and women and so forth as well. Because he's trying to rebut my earlier claim to show that ISIS is completely contradictory to Islam, because there are many hadiths that say, and you can actually read it for yourself, in Sahih Bukhari, volume 4, book 52, number 257, where it says, during some of the ghazawat of the Prophet, a woman was found killed. Allah's apostle disproved the killing of women and children. And you can see more hadith in Sahih Muslim, volume 4, book 52, hadith 258. It says, again, during some of the ghazawat, Allah's apostle, a woman was found killed. So Allah's apostle forbade the killing of women and children and so forth. So, of course, he turns around and says, this is a contradiction. Your hadith contradict Islam and things like this. But see, he exposes himself. It's not the hadith that contradicts. Rather, it's his interpretation of Islam being contradicted. It's not the hadith itself. And he says this contradicts the Quran. And of course, he narrates that particular verse in 2:194, and it says, assault them the way they assault you. But see, there are boundaries here. If those, if the non-Muslims or the West come in and they kill women and children and so forth, this verse doesn't mean assault them in the same way to assault you. I mean, this means to assault them, but doesn't say to assault them in every single way, right? In each detail, like killing the women and children and so forth, because you need to accept all of the hadith together and all of the Quran together, and you need to bring it to one piece. You can't just pick and choose and cherry pick and say, okay, because it says assault you in the same manner, we just ignore everything else that supports how the assault should take place, and just avoid every single hadith that says do not kill women and children. No, it doesn't say that. You need to simultaneously bring them together, and according to that, you need to assault them just like they assault you. And this doesn't make sense as well, because first of all, the non-Muslims do not go out and specifically target men, women and children. Well, I haven't seen that, okay? Where they specifically, if you go to their justifications, they go out and say that they target ISIS members. Of course, when they're killing ISIS members, when they throw a bomb, of course, men, women and children die. But hang on, ISIS don't do the same thing. ISIS don't go out and target the US in their own homelands or so forth, but they strap bombs on themselves and they run into marketplaces and blow themselves up. So again, this proves my point. How is that the same as assaulting you? That's not the same. You're actually going out and bombing their marketplaces and shooting specifically women and children, pointing the gun at women and children, or you're driving a bus over women and children. You're specifically targeting them. So this actually proves that you are wrong and ISIS are wrong, for they don't even assault the West in the same way they're being assaulted. So you've clearly been refuted on this point. In fact, even the Russian planes and even the Syrian regime, they don't put people in cages and burn them alive or drown them into the water. I haven't seen a video where they do that, but ISIS actually do that. So how is that the same way as them assaulting you? So you assault them in the same way. That's not the same way. So again, this actually disproves you and your assertions without a shadow of a doubt. Amala, the Christian, comes back and he says, this is his response. He writes, sources show that Muhammad allowed whatever he felt like whenever he felt like it, including the killing of women and children. So he quotes another hadith. He says in Sahih Muslim, Book 4, 322, see also Bukhari 5256, it says, it is reported on the authority that Sa'ab Jathama, the Prophet of Allah, be pleased with him, when asked about the women and children of the polytheists being killed during the night raid, said, they are from them. This is another claim that they use. But here is the refutation. I said to him, I knew you would bring that up, but did you notice it was a night raid, which means it was a target that had to be hit. And during the night, you can't tell who is who, so he said they are from them. In other words, it's a circumstance that can't be avoided. Notice the key word here is night raid. If it were a day raid, he would have disproved the killing of women and children. Now, back he says, no, he justified it saying they are of them, the pagans, meaning it's okay to kill them all. You are adding. So basically, Muhammad contradicts himself again. In the same way, ISIS can kill any civilian they wish through terrorist attacks, including women and children. You prove again that they are the same. And I said to him, wrong. Read properly, you got destroyed here. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, he was asked about the kingfolk inside a house spending the night among the combatants, pagans, as a result of which some of their women and children will get killed. He replied, they have the same status, they are the same, they are from them. I also heard the Prophet saying, the institution of Hima is invalid except for Allah and His Messenger. It means there is no violation of the house sanctity for entering someone's house in the nighttime combat. There is no blood price to be paid for accidental manslaughter of non-combatants the way they would be if pagan non-combatants had been maliciously victimized. The hadith shows a judicial concern and exceptional situations in difficult circumstances, combat in dark, in enemy territory, and otherwise. The other hadith in Al-Bukhari and Muslim are explicit that the Prophet never fought at night precisely to avoid unintentionally casualties. And it is forbidden to kill women and children. This has been the default position for 1400 years. Al-Nabawi placed a heading aside Sahih al-Muslim, the possibility of killing women and children at night unintentionally, while SUNAN was asked about the use of catapults and the fire projectiles against a fort in the siege. He said, I have never heard of it and I think it is an abomination. This is coming from Imam Nabawi. The questioner said, but did not Malik permit it? SUNAN said, only if there are no dependents, where there are only men fighting inside. So as you can see, even the Mufassirin, the scholars, have clearly refuted this assertion. And of course, from Ibn Umar in Muwatta, and also with a sound chain through the narrations of Al-Bukhari and Muslim, the well-known hadith of the Prophet's condemnation of killing of women in one of his military expeditions, and he categorically prohibited the killing of women and children. The interesting point is that the hadith talks about night raids where children can get killed unintentionally. So the Prophet said they are from them, meaning it's bad luck situation. But what we see ISIS do, they go into a marketplace in broad daylight to blow themselves up, and children, not even a place of enemy combatants. Some examples: the Tunisian beach massacre, where ISIS carried out attacks on tourist civilians during broad daylight, spraying bullets towards women and children, killing as many as they could. And we also see this example where they used a truck in Nice to run over both men, women and children indiscriminately. He then responds back by saying weak arguments, he either permits it or not. It was contradictory in all ways. Muslims had to come up with a concept of abrogation to explain why half the Quran is not valid anymore and why Muhammad kept changing his mind, and he makes a big laugh about this. He says terrorists can use the same excuse to kill wherever they wish by means just demonstrated in Surah 2:119, and Muhammad allowed killing of women and children in cases it was unavoidable. In some ways they can argue once again, well, you're completely contradicting yourself. Read Surah 2:19. It's in the context of war, where kill them wherever you find them. It's the same motto that the US Army uses: kill the Muslims wherever you find them. It's the same motto. It's the context of war. I said Muhammad does not contradict himself. It's Islamophobes and ISIS members. You cherry pick out of context Hadith and misinterpret them. He then quotes, in very examples you mentioned, they can justify killing anyone in broad daylight because it was unavoidable, like it was Muhammad and his companions. This is why Muhammad contradicted ways lead the way for ISIS and other similar Islamic groups. And my basic response back to him was, there is no contradiction, as night raids are unavoidable, just like when US warplanes drop bombs during the night on ISIS targets. They still go ahead even though they cannot make a distinction between men and women and children. This is part of war, as war can be tragic. Unintentional people get hurt, and like I said, you can never bring a statement where during broad daylight a prophet specifically instructed to stick swords into babies, children and women. But I can show you your Bible in 1 Samuel 15:3 and Numbers 31. He still comes back. The Christian's basically on the ropes now. Look, it's almost over. He's almost defeated. So look what he says. He says, but Muhammad justified by saying they are from them. They are halal to kill because they are one of them. The non-Muslims contradicted himself just like he did. And he goes on and on. And so he's still going on about this. And I said to him, we explained what they are from them meant is in the context of a night raid and not a daylight raid. If you notice the hadith, the companions were concerned about women and children. They knew that women and children were not supposed to be targeted, for why they were trying to be cautious, because they understood that there were commands that disprove such killings. And like I said, you will not find a hadith saying they are from them during daytime battle. So again, he laughs at this. I said, I have debated many ISIS supporters and Christian critics, and they never they misinterpreted claims. So basically that's it. And look at him, he's in denial now. He comes back and he says, I gave no rebuttal and repeated the same nonsense which I already refuted twice, he says. And he goes on to tell me that, and I'm quoting what he's saying. He's saying it was unavoidable at night, that was the chosen time of attack, is no excuse at all. In fact, it is quite cowardly attacking people at night in the dark, slashing away at random. That sounds just like ISIS to me. However, this is actually clearly refuted. Maybe it was the Quraysh who wanted to travel at night to be avoided to be spotted by Muslims. So maybe that was the only opportunity for the Muslims to attack. So are you saying that if that is an opportunity and that is the only opportunity to attack him, maybe because the Quraysh only traveled during the night of the caravans to avoid seeing Muslims, are you saying, the Muslims shouldn't attack him? No. Can you imagine the American drone strikes over Iraq? They're going to say, okay guys, we'll just wait for the daylight because that may avoid killing women and children. No, they're going to hit ISIS targets during the day and night. I don't see you complaining about the Americans. Do you call them terrorists for not fighting during the day only? See, this is his nonsensical, hypocritical assertions. And he still refuses to understand that what the term they are from them meant. And I've given him my final rebuttal on this. I said to him, they are from them. This is my conclusion. I said to him, they are from them is in the context of night battle. And I said to him, you obviously lack brain juice to understand this. Like I said, you will never find where he said they are from them during daylight battle, which proves our point. If, for example, the US Army was questioned about droning enemies during the night because women and children would get hurt, if the Army General says that's bad luck, they are from them because we can't determine the terrorists from the children and women from the enemy since it's night, how is that objectionable? If so, then the US Army is a terrorist, which is no different from ISIS. So it is clear they are from them means it's bad luck. They are from them due to the bad luck nature of being during a night battle. If you still do lack brain juice to comprehend, then we'll let the readers decide and evaluate both sides of the argument. And that's it. So that's where our response and rebuttals have ended. That's our debating the topic and refuting the Christian critics. If he comes back to respond, we'll do a part 2 to this. But it's been 12 hours since he's going to respond. He hasn't yet. So I'll post a link in where you can actually go and see the refutations and the rebuttals. Thank you for tuning in. By the grace of Allah Almighty, we will continue to debunk the lies and refute their lies and assertions against Islam. Peace.